Hi, my name is Brian Harris. I'm 37 years old, married to my wife, Erin, for what will be 15 years this January. We have 3 children. Our oldest is Olivia Grace. She is a 6th grader, just entered into middle school, 12 years old. Our middle child, Benjamin, is our only son. He's 10 years old, loves playing soccer. And our youngest child, Lucy Joy, is 7 years old, the baby of the family. I grew up a native Texan, born and raised in Nederland, Texas, which is about 2 hours east of Houston, where we currently reside and where I serve at Second Baptist Church here in Houston, Texas. I'm the oldest of 7 siblings of a very large blended family. And I want to take a moment and explain the story of how I sense God has called me and my entire family to a place where we're pursuing active duty military chaplaincy now in the next season of life. I'm a member of the Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2002, which is just a kind of a fun way of saying that I graduated and attended Texas A&M University, graduated in 2002, and it really was there that the Lord called me into full-time Christian ministry, that He removed what would have been maybe a career in the medical field and repositioned me and called me into full-time Christian ministry. As a response to that call, after graduation from college, I attended seminary at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in Fort Worth, Texas. Graduated there in 2005 and really have been serving in local churches since then as a full-time vocational Christian ministry role as a pastor here in these churches. And really today I have 3 convictions that I want to share about why it is that God has called me into active duty chaplain ministry. And the first conviction is this, is why I feel like that is the next step in ministry that God has for me. These 15 years have been in the local church, and now very much I'm sensing that in the next season of life that God has the chaplaincy is the next step for me. I'm excited about that. I'm passionate about that. And the primary reason for that is this. It's God's call, the divine call of God on a man's life. I believe that when God calls and speaks to a man and says, this is what I've told you to do, that he ought to pursue that passionately with all his heart, all his soul, all his mind, all his strength, everything he can apply to that, do his dead level best to see that through. And that's where I see God calling me right now into the chaplaincy is with that call. It really started last spring. We had a gentleman in our church who was a fireman. He passed away in the line of duty. And I had the honor and privilege of performing his memorial service, walking with his wife and 3 kids through that and performing the service. And it was in those preparations, working with the chaplain there for the Houston Fire Department and being in that service, sitting on stage with all those men in uniform. And it's as if God spoke audibly and tapped me on the shoulder and said, Brian, you're in the wrong seat. Local church Christian ministry, that's where I've had you. Now I'm freeing you up to what you've been excited about for years, you've looked into for years, and that is military service, chaplain ministry. And I really sensed that was God's call. So I began to pray about that, began to journal about that and consider that. And it was a couple weeks later, I brought that to my wife. Told her, I said, baby, you might think I'm crazy, but this is what God is doing. And she looked at me and said, let's do it. I know God's in this. This is what we've been praying about. And it's such an honor not to have God's call, also to have my wife as a supporter in that. She's 100% on board. She senses that call as well. She's excited about the adventure. She's excited about what God would have us do. And that's really the primary reason, is God's call on our lives. I want my children to know that when their father was called upon by the Lord to step out into something new, that he did it, and he did it with conviction. Secondly, and all these other areas really are secondary to God's call, but secondly is that I have a passion for serving those who are serving our country, those soldiers who are laying down the sacrifice for our country, to be able to serve them, I think is the greatest calling. Matter of fact, I feel like as a minister, what we are to be is servants. And I think there's no greater arena to serve than to serve those who are serving our country. Another reason is that our nation was founded on this idea of religious freedom, that any man or woman can worship however they see fit. And I'm excited to be a part on a national level and to be a part of that, to be a part of that fight for religious freedom, to be a part of that fight to bring God into men and women's lives. And even still, lastly, I feel like a conviction that I have on why this is the next step is because I think it's a worthwhile adventure for my family. To broaden their horizons, for them to see new things, for them to see stepping out, to feel the cohesion and camaraderie as a family of stepping into something new, I feel would be healthy for us. I feel we've laid a good foundation for that. My second conviction is this. It's a conviction of why I feel like I am uniquely suited to step into this kind of chaplain ministry in the United States Air Force. And the first reason, I'll list several, but the first reason is a leadership reason. The churches that I've served in have been large organizations, afforded me the opportunity truly to lead in ways that maybe other organizations wouldn't have, to lead large groups of people, to practice leadership and to study leadership and to put it into to play in the churches that I've worked in. And so I feel like that's a skill set that I can bring to the chaplain ministry, is that of being able to step out and lead and to advance the cause and to work as a leadership role. Secondarily is I feel like I've been exposed to some large organizations. The churches that I work in have large hierarchical organizations where it's key to understand that you're a small part of a much bigger whole. That to stay in your lane, to accomplish your task, and when you do that something great happens that you accomplish things that you couldn't have by yourself. And I believe that those skills are those that will apply in the military as well. I feel like another thing that's uniquely shaped me for this ministry is my extensive experience in counseling. Over the years, whether it be as a student pastor or as an adult pastor, I've counseled with countless families, students, couples, both in pre-marriage counseling and in marriage counseling, have sat across from me and have had the opportunity to learn from those experiences. I've had an opportunity to work on that craft, and so I'm excited to put that into use in the chaplain ministry. Another reason is that I enjoy public speaking. It's been something that I've had the opportunity to do quite a bit of, to work on that as a skill. I enjoy speaking and presenting God's word in front of people. I enjoy sharing in front of large groups of people. It energizes me. It enthuses me. And then the last reason I feel like I'm uniquely suited is because I'm excited about a diversity of congregation. Here in the local church for the last 15 years, you really see that you end up with a lot of folks that are very similar, like-minded, and enjoy working in that context. But I believe that Jesus Christ himself had followers from all walks of life. He had a diverse group of people listening to his message, and I'm excited about the arena that the military offers for that kind of diversity. The third conviction I want to share is that of my hope and my prayer for this entire process. A verse that has really guided Aaron and I's life is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6, and it says this. It says, to trust the Lord with all your heart, that lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways give acknowledgement to him, and he will make your paths straight. So as we've walked through this, we've simply tried to trust God's leading, to acknowledge him and his call in our lives, and we believe that he'll straighten out our path. A very specific prayer that we've prayed, and I've prayed, is rooted in Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21, and the verse says this. It says, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it's the counsel of the Lord that will stand. Or another translation says that it's the purpose of the Lord that prevails. My prayer for this whole process is that God's purpose will prevail. Now, I believe he's called me to take this step, to pursue the chaplaincy. I'm excited about what opportunities it will afford, but my prayer is that the Lord's purpose will prevail. Gentlemen, I'm praying for you that you would have discernment as you walk through this process, and that God will be with you in this decision process.